What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to Wrenching Wrecked. Back in the garage today for a little bit. I don't have a ton of time, but I at least want to get this set up. So, last video we split the cases at the shop. There's 2 bolts I forgot to take out. Don't do that. You want to make sure all those bolts are out first. I thought I grabbed them all the night before, but that's what happens when things get spread out over a couple days. Overlooked them or can't remember. Anyways, case studs are still in for the cylinders. And we're kind of at that weird point. We got bare cases here. The only thing left is these kicker shaft seals that will pop out eventually, but that doesn't matter right now. Degreased and cleaned everything up pretty well. But right now, I think I'm actually gonna pull, I think I got the head bolts, nuts in the box. We will pull the studs out of the case, scrape the gasket, get this nice and clean. Then we got the polini kit that I got to open up underneath here, and the rotary little Dremel type tool, carbide bit, and the gaskets and parts should be in here for this. So I want to pull the studs, scrape the gasket surface, get this clean, lay out the polini gasket, which is going to be much bigger, and then we'll take a look at the kit when we unbox and open that one up. Lay that gasket out here, loose assemble these studs, and then grab a Sharpie, mark all of this out, and line this up for some case matching. So we're just about there. Let me grab the bolts, get this set up, and then we'll pull the head studs, or the cylinder studs, out of the case, and then we can start looking at maybe trying some porting. I might just do one quick little rough cut on this for now, and then we'll go through and do a final one and come back when it's all done. I don't think I'm going to film the whole thing because it's long and arduous and tedious and not that fun. Or maybe I'll leave the camera on and time-lapse it. I haven't decided yet. We'll see how that goes, but first things first, let's get these head studs out. Okay, hopefully if you've watched any of the other Harley videos or sporty stuff that we've been doing out here, I mean, that's kind of unfortunate. I guess we got some shovelhead stuff too, but predominantly it's been mostly sporty stuff out here. So to pull the studs, we're basically taking the 2 factory head bolts. We're going to jam nut these together, and hopefully we can get this without any additional heat, but if we need to add a bit of heat to this, we can. I don't know my metric sizes, but I would assume they're probably 10 mils. If we need to add a little bit of heat to this, we can, and we will. Geesh. My metric stash is not the best. 10 or 11? 11. So, we'll use a little stubby wrench. Hopefully this is enough to grab them. But, jam your 2 nuts together. Then we'll grab this bottom one. And try and see if this will wiggle. Use my forearm on the case. Oh, butter. Nice and easy. So that's good. Not too bad. So double jam nut, pinch them together, and then you can unthread them all the way out. And then we'll Loctite these when we go to reassemble into the... I don't like trying to scrape the gaskets with the studs in. They just get in the way. And these are gonna get blasted and coated too. I know you don't really see them, but it doesn't make sense having a powder coating shop and building one of these without just coating everything. So that's the first one. We'll be back once I get the rest of these out and the gasket scraped, because gasket scraping is not fun television. We'll be back. Well, gasket's cleaned up enough. Definitely not perfect. I don't care about anything going in there now, obviously, since they are just bare cases. But I'll leave you guys right here while we open up this kit. Now, I have not had one of these in a very long time. So, the unboxing. Not that that matters all that much, but figure I'll just show you guys exactly what we're looking at here. Here is the, okay, so we got a new wrist pin. We have exhaust studs or intake studs, one of the two, maybe both. Brand new piston. Let's get the foam out, we'll pop this up. So 2-ring piston. And the cylinder. This is all brand new. Intake, sharp edges on this cylinder right now from the casting. We're gonna be running, I think I'm leaning towards an 18mm carb, so we'll try and match that to whatever else we get here, and we'll kind of be bouncing back and forth here. I have the stock header, so we're basically gonna try and match this hole to the hole in the header. Same thing on the intake. It looks like a pretty small hole, but it's got a really steep ramp. So it comes down here and then cuts way in and then opens up quite a bit down here on the intake side. So hard angle this way. And there you can kind of see my finger coming through the port. And there's a really big lip at the actual machining of the bore too. So basically, at minimum, I usually go through here with a file and hit all of the sharp edges, especially in the cylinder, because you don't want the ring to snag on any of those. And yeah, we'll be cutting into the transfers a little bit. So you can usually ramp this out. On this, it's got a split transfer. So you got your main transfer here, but there's also a bridge to the top side. We're gonna hog this out a little bit. I'm not going crazy on this. We'll spend some time just kind of opening this up and smoothing everything. And then I don't know if I'm gonna be going that much more beyond that, other than trying to just match everything for flow. But there is a good amount of meat to ramp the intake in as well. So ideally, in a perfect world, I'd have the intake here and we can kind of lay that out and dial that in. But for right now, we'll at least just get this kind of laid out. I do have all of the case bolts back in, so we can rough mock this up. Make sure everything kind of fits. Obviously, the studs are out, which are going to go right back in very shortly. And then basically, once I get the studs back in and the gasket marked, we can take one case half at a time and I can give you a better visual of how this works in terms of the transfers. But here's coming in through here. There's no valves on a 2-stroke if you're totally unfamiliar, but the airflow gets transferred through these transfer slots in the cylinder and come down through into the case. Quick, rough explanation. So let me throw these studs in, grab the gasket, get this laid out at least. And before we even touch the cylinders, I just want to get the gasket laid out. One thing at a time. They give you instructions. Way to go, Polini. So instructions are on the box. Gaskets are really all I'm looking for right now. It does come with a bigger head gasket, so that alleviates the concern I had prior. But all I need right now is this thin little guy. So the other thing that I typically do like to do, which I'm not gonna do today, but a lot of the times when I get these, I'll lay this out on gasket paper and trace another one just so I have a couple options moving forward. But this is without the studs in. I'll let you guys see what we're kind of looking at here. Here is the gasket, so we're basically just gonna, and I'm not gonna do this until the studs actually get put back in, but we're just gonna open up these transfers a little bit, so it's really not porting, it's more of a case match. So we're gonna case match it for the kit, unless I feel like going crazy, but hogging out cast iron cylinders, it's not my favorite thing to do. So we'll start with the case and see how much time I wanna spend. Let me grab the studs. Okay, so the case is on, the studs are in. I don't have these tightened down all the way. I don't really need them to be yet. But now, I know there's a bunch of car guys on this channel, and this is not rocket science, okay? All I'm doing is laying the gasket out, laying out my tape line, sharpieing it nice and black. If I had better material, I would try that, like a die cam or something, but Sharpie is what I got. So that's what we're using. Now there's still going to be a little bit of wiggle room in terms of where the gasket's going to line up. So, and if you're more performance oriented, you can spend a lot of time on this, but we're not. I want performance, but I don't need crazy transfers. And we definitely don't need to overdo it and hog a hole through the case. A lot of times that's one of the limiting factors depending on how big your motors are. So like, I've done it, and on Pooks, I've definitely opened them up too much and had to do a little bit of welding, not gonna lie. But it's aluminum, so lay it on, build it up, and that's our start. So here, you can see where this is getting real thin on the outside edge. I don't think I'm gonna go all the way exactly to that outside, just because there is a little bit of float here. But now that these case halves are together, now that they've been together, pull the studs back out. I'm gonna leave these over here because we'll kind of keep bouncing back and forth, in and out, in and out, in and out. And then, gotta find an extension cord, and we'll give this Dremel a little test. Haven't used this one yet. So the other one took a crap the last time I used it, so replaced it. Jeff Bezos special. We'll see how this thing works. Here goes nothing. Got a little bit of room on the bench. It'd be really nice if I had a little more space, but hopefully this won't move too much on me. I'm just going to use a little bit of grease on here. And let's see how this goes. I don't want to stand up and do this, so depending here. I'm actually going to drop this down a little bit. It'd be really nice if I just grabbed myself an extension cord, but so we are starting with a carbide, which is a little on the aggressive side, but we'll go through and smooth it out with some sand later on. Whew. That's what I was worried about. Don't really have a ton. I don't know where my extension cords are. Protect your eyeballs too. We're just trying to do the rough carving right now. Turn that off. We're getting loose out here. Okay, so keep an eye on your tool. That started spreading on me a little bit towards the end of that. And then you're gonna want some air as well, because you're gonna make a big old mess. So let me Do a quick little blow off on the bench. We're not done at all. But let me make sure this tool stays tight, first of all, because we don't need that bit flying off. That would not be a fun time. The flexi attachment definitely helps. So I'm going to turn the speed down a little bit. We're going to shape this corner a little bit more. I don't know how well the lighting is on here, but I'm going to try and get one side mostly done. I actually need a slightly thinner one, blade-wise, but we'll see what we can do here. I'm not carving into this or laying into it. I'm kind of letting the tool do the work. A little more grease. Soap works really well too. And there we have it. That's about one side done with the first pass on the aggressive cut. So Sharpie line here, Sharpie line is pretty much gone here. We did ramp these outside edges in so it's got a nice contour. And working with an old case that's not blasted and completely cleaned up, you get a nice contrast line of what's been hit and what has not. So do the same thing on the other one, and then we'll take a look at the actual cylinders later on. First one, I ended up opening this up and smoothing it out a little bit more. I'm really happy with that side. So I don't know how well this will show up on the old camera, but we got nice kind of smooth ramped transitions on both sides here. Not perfect because that was just a carbide, but you can see how much bigger that one is compared to that one. So if we do a straight down view, this one's not going to flow as much or as smoothly as that one. So now I'm going to switch to a sanding disc and do a quick scuff on here. I'm not going for polished, I'm just going for a nice, very smooth transition. So I switch to a sanding disc, it's not going to cut as much. Forgot to tighten that. Tighten these. Not the collet, but the actual sanding piece. Whoops. Doesn't grab the sandpaper until you tighten it down. So there we go. Let's try that again. I like the tapered ones, but I don't have those here. I got a whole box of them at the shop, but again, why would I ever think ahead and remember to bring with all the stuff I need at once? That would be logical and silly. We're not going to do the other side of this anyway today because I got stuff to do. So where the carbide kind of cuts and leaves real heavy ridges on things, the sandpaper will smooth that out. I don't like this bit. This is a terrible bit. I need something with a taper to it. Let's see. Maybe I got something. What I was looking for, and it's not going to be as smooth as the sandpaper finish, but I think it should work just fine. We're going to go back to a stone, orange one. But it's got that acorn style or bullet style shape to it, which is kind of more what I'm looking for. Not as aggressive as a carbide, not as soft as sandpaper. Now the only other thing here This is not required. You don't need to do this to put the 70 kit on. You can just bolt it on, but I've always I can't leave anything alone. And it's basically just leaving some free power on the table. Again, it is a moped, so does it really matter? I don't know. It really depends on what you're trying to do. But I'd like to see 50 miles an hour out of this thing. And if you are a Garelli person or have done more of these than I have, which is pretty much anybody else that's done one, if that's crazy, let me know. I don't mind hearing about that either. But good practice anyway. I'm thinking that's probably going to be about good on the transfers for now. So, right side is just about done. Pretty smooth. There's a couple ridges I'm going to sand out here. Once I get the case apart, I can come to it from the back side and just kind of smooth some of this transition a little bit more. But I got nice smooth transitions, especially down in these ridges. That's usually what I try and get extremely smooth. So just kind of follow that curvature up and in, up and in. I didn't take out a ton or anything, but just smoothed it all out. So that's where we're gonna stop for now. When we come back, I should have this cleaned up on the other side a little bit more, and then we'll take a look at what the cylinder looks like. Well, it's the next day. I got as far as I thought yesterday. We finished up the one transfer. Now I'm gonna start hogging out this side. We'll get these matched. Then we'll put the studs in and drop the cylinder over. Kind of line everything up and see what that looks like. I'm gonna throw you on the tripod. We'll do a quick little time lapse. So skip ahead if that's boring for you. It's not that exciting. It's the same thing as this. Well, we got the cases matched-ish. I could spend a little more time and go through and hand file and sand, but I'm very good with that. And then when these get coated, we are going to blast this, so it'll have a nice blasted profile, so it won't be polished smooth on the intake side. But now we can separate the case again, drop the studs in, and then we'll drop the cylinder on and take a look at what that's going to look like. So, let's yank all the case bolts out, make sure we get them all this time. This is going to kind of determine how far I want to go on the actual cast iron cylinder. Like I said, I don't have any intention of going crazy with this one. I did that on my Minarelli back in the day, but definitely not on this. Come on. Now, once you get these off, you get your nice smooth port transition here. We can throw a couple of the studs in and line this up. I think that's backwards. The short side goes in the case. We're not doing a full bolt down or anything on here, so really just kind of holding it up, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. Okay. Intake is this goofy flange up top. Helps if you put it on the right way. I'm looking at the cylinder. Oh my goodness. What is happening? Okay, so here's really what you're going to want to look at when you start getting into this. So as of right now, there's a good amount of meat we can actually open up on the case because I matched it to the gasket. How can I get this to stay? Set this down this way. Then bring you guys over. Okay, so here's the transfer that I've been grinding away on. Right down in here. So this is carved out. Right now I got a little bit of a wall right there on the cylinder that we can open up, and a little bit right here that we can transfer match. So I'm only going to match those and then knock down some of the high spots on here. I don't think I'm going to get into changing the ports or opening up any of the inside other than a quick little file with sandpaper around the edges to smooth that out. You can grind the ports away and open up port timing, but I don't want to do that. Not on this one. This just needs to be relatively reliable. So as this sits right now, the ramp on this side actually looks really good, feels really good. So I'm good on this. It's a nice smooth transition. So I'll try and get a Sharpie in here and see if I can get a line somewhere, or at least close. Come on. You can scribe something in here. Okay, so we got a good chunk of meat to open up on here. I did get a scribe line there, so now we'll open up the cast iron section a little bit. This is going to be even worse, but more grinding. 20 minutes or so later, I said I wasn't going to open up the kit. I was just going to match it. Well, once I get started, I just can't stop. So, can of Pringles. So here's the brand new cylinder. You're supposed to take grinders to brand new parts, right? So here is roughly, I got that little Sharpie line right on that corner, right here. We got to open that up just a tiny bit more to get it to match, and then we're going to open up a little bit more on the case. But I do have a dual transfer, a split transfer here, so I've started kind of ramping that. Hopefully you can see, let's see here, right here. The shiny section, well, that shiny section is the transfer on the bridge port. So you got one that comes down, one that comes through here. So I'm not going over the top trying to knife edge this, but getting a nice smooth transition through here and then a nice smooth transition down into this secondary transfer. But we are just going to keep opening this up a little bit. So I got to switch out the bit. My tool's overheating, so that's outside trying to cool off a little bit. We're going to smooth this little edge, open this intersection up just a smidge, and then it's not all the way out here. I just got to basically cut this Sharpie line in half. and that'll wrap up this side. Then we could do the same thing on the other. So if you're looking at both, I mean, just that 20 minutes in terms of lighting, obviously black casting, polished finish, it's going to pick up a little bit more, but just enough to let it breathe a little bit, and then we'll do the same thing on the intake and the exhaust. So waiting on the Dremel. We'll be back in a bit. We spent a little time on the cylinders. I got these ported out pretty well, much more than I planned on doing, but that's how it goes sometimes. So we did ramp the split transfer a little bit more, focus, and got these all opened up. So a lot more flow through there. I still got to chamfer the edges on the inside of the cylinder. But when we lay this out on the case, now I have a tiny bit more fab or grinding to do on the case itself. But if we take a case half, now it's the point of slap it together, half a motor at least. It gives me the visual in through here. So as hopefully you guys can kind of see, I don't know what's going to show up on the camera, but the transfers are pretty much matched up to the case with the exception of a little hump on this corner. Let's see if I can grab a light. I don't know if that'll be better or worse. You guys are sitting here, but we can see down in the transfers now this little tiny edge, so I got to take a sliver off right there, but the rest of that, the case lines right up to the ports and runs all the way down. So I'm pretty happy with this so far. A little more cleanup on there. We're just basically checking it, see what it looks like, and get rid of any walls, if you will. So let me keep grinding on the case now. Oh, another 30 minutes goes by pretty quick, but I'm very happy with this now. I ended up matching this to both sides. So here's the transfers on here. Everything's perfectly matched up. So if we slap this together now, like so, where's my light? Got nice smooth transitions all the way through. I don't know how much this is actually going to show up on the camera. I'll find out when I edit, but the case is matched exactly to the transfer, and we got nice sloped, clean ramps all the way throughout. So that's that side. Same thing on the other side. That's not a hole, that's a Sharpie line in case anybody's keen at observing, but we come in this way, you get I don't know if the light's better or worse. Got nice transitions all the way through, very smooth flowing. So that's it on the cases. This is pretty much good to go. I'm gonna pull the studs back out, and then this can go get blasted and coated. I'm not gonna do anything on the intake yet, but I can do that. I don't have an intake made, so it's got a very angled oval port on the intake side, and then the exhaust, same thing, it ovals out to a massive section on the inside, so the hole is smaller and then it widens up going into the cylinder. But we'll just do a quick smooth on the intake, quick smooth on the exhaust. I'm definitely not carving out those nearly as much as the transfers, because one, I don't know what size the exhaust header is or the intake. I haven't made them yet. But we can get the bottom end back together, which can go back in the bike. I don't need to have the whole thing completely assembled to put this back together, which will leave this available for some intake porting. Like I said, just quick cleanup on here. But the hard part is done. I know that's not the most exciting video in the world. It's very time consuming. I've been out here grinding away. I made a giant mess. I'm covered in aluminum shavings. Bench is covered. So we'll go through and get some stuff cleaned up. But that's how you make the power. Can you bolt the kit on and just go? Yes, 100%. But I'm kind of leaning towards that 50 mile an hour mark. I want that to come to fruition. So whatever I can do porting wise will help me on that journey. So port your cases, or case match your cases rather. The porting aspect, I guess, kind of comes in when you get into ramping the transfers, but oh well. Way too much time being spent on this moped, but it should be fun when it's done. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all those fun things. We will catch you on the next one.